Hi, hello, welcome to Tuesday Night Live. This is Kim, and I'm glad to be here with you. I have a little sippy cup. It's a small sippy cup today. And I'm drinking some sparkling water with a lot of ice right now. And I'm here to talk about whatever y'all want to talk about, health wise, life wise, whatever you guys want input on. I'm happy to answer questions and discuss things. I actually have a little product shout out today. I was going to actually make this before the call, but I wasn't like hungry. And so I thought, why? But anyways, this protein powder that I got, I don't know how the heck to say this company's name. Chike, Chike. This was a recommendation I got from a live with Peter Attia. Not that I was doing, but I saw him do a little video and he recommended this product. It's basically espresso and some protein powder. So, but it's really good. So if you were somebody that kind of liked frappuccinos, that's what it basically makes. And so one serving of this, it's 2 scoops. So I've been doing just a half a scoop, but 2 scoops is 120 calories, 2 grams of fats, 5 grams of carbs, and 20 grams of protein. And I'll add it to some nut milk and do it up in the blender with a little bit of ice. And it is very frappuccino-like. The ingredients are non-GMO whey protein isolate, non-GMO whey protein concentrate, coffee, natural flavors, sea salt, xanthan, caffeine, and sucralose. So they have a bunch of different flavors. This one is the triple shot espresso and cream. It's really very, very tasty. One of my favorite products. Now, couldn't you just make some coffee and put some protein powder in it and blend it up? Yes, you could. But this is really good and very easy. And some people just mix it with water. I have always used nut milk because I like things a little creamier, but it's got enough sweetener in it. It's not super sweet, but it's sweet. So it's very much like a coffee frappuccino in my mind. So a lot better macros. It does indeed have a few grams of carbs. It has 5. My guess is that's a little bit from the protein powders and that sort of thing. Hold on. So you can see in this picture, no, on this side, no, on this side, it's everything's reversed. If you just mixed it with water and didn't blend it with some ice, it would just be like thick iced coffee. But you could blend it with ice, it's like frappuccino. So that's I didn't really love frappuccinos. They were too sweet for me, but I like a blended iced coffee, and that's what you get. So I got somebody, Christy, no problem, Christy, had asked me to hold it up better. So there you go. Yeah, so it's called protein iced coffee. It's a terrible name, Chike or Chike, I don't know, but that's the name. So, but I saw Peter Attia talking about some of his favorite products recently, and this was one of them. And I was like, well, I'll give it a try. And it is indeed pretty awesome. It's delicious. So if you're already doing like protein iced coffees, it'll fit the bill for sure. And I haven't done it, but he says it mixes up really well in a shaker bottle. Like he brings it and has it kind of as its after gym. Now it does have actual real caffeine in it. This is, like I said, this is a triple shot. So it's like 3 shots of espresso in here. 3 shots worth of espresso. They make other ones that are a little less. I think they're only 2 shots, but sometimes I just make 1 scoop instead of 2, and then it's half the amount of espresso. So Christy says, my doctor said I need to gain weight. Okay, well, it can be done. I mean, your weight, you've given it 5'2", 115. I would listen to your doctor, right? Like, as statistics, that is not an overweight person. I'm sorry, an underweight person. That is somewhere within the normal range. But your doctor knows things that I do not. And so your doctor may be able to say you're suffering from some effects of malnutrition, or he wants you to add more calories so that you can potentially add a little more muscle or something like that, right? Every one of us has a different structure. I think there's a range of what a healthy weight is, and each one of us has details within it that make a difference. And you have POTS. Okay. So, certainly with some, by the way, not a doctor. Your doctor is a doctor. I am not a doctor. So I'm just going to tell you some things that I think, but I'm not going to give any medical advice because that's not what I do. Um, but yeah, I mean, certainly people with POTS are going to need to really carefully dial in their food and especially their electrolyte intake to try and improve, their blood pressure and their response to food and movement and just their body being a body. So, I would say if your doctor is saying that weight gain is needed, then I would do things that cause weight gain, which would probably mean that you're going to want to increase the amount of food that you eat. Yeah, I know who you are, Christy. I have to say it for everybody, not just some people, right? I have to put the message out that I am not giving you medical advice nor anyone else. So yeah, I would say it can be done. You're going to need to probably it's kind of the way, right? A lot of times you have to say if you want to gain weight, you're probably going to have to eat more than you want to, than you're naturally being inclined to, than your druthers, as they would say. And then if you want to lose weight, you often have to eat a little less than you want to. Maybe not less than you need, but less than you maybe want to. So it's kind of the opposite sides of the same coin. And so I think most of us aren't used to having to push the envelope in the other way. So what I would say probably is if you're trying to gain weight and you're trying to do it while on a ketogenic or low carb approach, you're going to probably want, I don't know if you're just low carb or your keto or whatever, but you're probably going to want to push the fat more than the protein. Protein for sure. More protein is very helpful, but protein is not gram for gram. Protein is more filling. And so you're going to want to look for ways in which to make your meals more calorically dense without making them as filling. So certain types of foods are more filling and certain types of foods are less filling. And so if you're somebody that needs to gain weight, you want to start eating some of the less filling foods. Whereas if you're trying to lose weight, you need to eat the more filling foods, right? So they're kind of opposite ends of the same spectrum. And so some people, when they up their protein, percentage wise of their diet, they actually find they lose weight sort of naturally because it's making them more satiated on a lower intake gram for gram. So I would probably be inclined to do things like put heavy cream in my coffee, add an extra tablespoon of butter to everything I eat, go that route and see what happens. We're all a little different, but that should cause your weight to go in the opposite direction eventually if you keep pushing that envelope. Unless you're under eating protein to begin with, in which case, absolutely add more protein. But if you're already eating the appropriate amount of protein for your body, then I would say you're probably going to get more bang for your buck from adding a little bit more fat to your diet. Anyway, what other questions do people have? What would people like to know about? I'm happy to talk about whatever. You switched from A2 half and half. Yeah. And so, that's great. The A2 milk is a different, is from a different sort of the different bovine milk, right? There's A1 and there's A2, and the A2 is often thought to be a little less inflammatory. So switching, in half and half is a better source of calories than maybe milk is for a lot of us. But you could even go full heavy cream on that situation if you wanted to. Although I can't do full heavy cream like that. I can't drink it anymore. It gives me a little bit of acid reflux, which nobody likes. It's super not fun. Anyway, so some things going on in my life, the world, whatever. Let's just think about some things to talk about because we got to talk about some things or else this is really boring for everybody. Really enjoying making different recipes when I think of it, and then I never actually write it down anymore. I've so out of the recipe creating framework, like there's sort of habits that you start to get into when you're creating recipes where you're always writing notes and, taking pictures and whatever. And I've not been sort of in that mindset so much. but it's definitely a thing for sure. Chrissy says, if I send you my family pound cake recipe, could you make it keto? Well, I can just tell you that the changes you would need to make would be you'd need to change out the flour to an almond flour and or a coconut flour or something like along those lines, and you need to change out the sugar to a non, something like an allulose or swerve or something like that. Those are the basics of the change. Generally speaking, what I would say is look for a good pound cake recipe online, a keto pound cake recipe, and then compare that pound cake recipe to your family's and see what you can get. Because the reality is, if you love your family's pancake recipe, unless it's something very specific with the spices, pound cakes are usually very much just about the amount of sugar and flour involved. So, but there are some great keto pound cake recipes. I don't know that keto pound cake is something that I need to recreate because so many exist. But I would say, go to some good recipe creators out there and look for their pound cake recipes and then compare it to your families and say, yeah, that looks like that would be a good swap. Because the thing about keto baking is that sweetener and flower type um, exchanges are very specific because baking is chemistry, and the chemistry of baking with traditional flour is very different than the chemistry of baking with keto friendly ingredients. For me, I don't do a lot of, traditional keto baking anymore, mostly because I focus on weight loss. And for me, eating a lot of keto baked goods, while fabulous for my journey at the beginning, at this point is not so great if I want to lose the last 10 pounds of the pounds that I want to lose, because there's just no room in my budget. There's not my financial budget, but my food budget, my weight loss food budget is focused around protein. And so pound cake, not an especially high protein way to eat. So it's not something that I would probably spend a lot of time on myself, but is absolutely something that if you need to gain weight, make some of that keto pound cake for sure. So find a keto pound cake recipe from a recipe creator you like, and then compare yours. Basically a lot of butter, the flours. Sugar-free mom is great for baking. You can check her out and go with that. Hey, white noise, good to see you. Hello. And so I'm very excited about it getting a little warmer. I like the spring for sure. I had a friend on Facebook who posted these really cute overalls, and I ordered them. And then, like, they're not like overalls like Oshkosh Bagosh, like, it was like sort of more yoga looking, kind of stretchy, sort of blousy. They were like baggy. Like, they're not the thing that my boyfriend's gonna be like, you look hot in that. They're more the thing that, like, I look like a toddler, but they're very comfy. So when I got them, and it was funny, I was like, why is Amazon posting all of these pregnancy clothes suddenly? It didn't occur to me that I had apparently bought, and she's not pregnant, but I think this overall-y things are actually, they didn't say pregnancy, but I think maybe a lot of pregnant people were buying them because they're like, you're like an Oompa Loompa. It doesn't have any constriction in the middle. And so I put them on and I was like, I think these pregnancy clothes. Anyway, but they're very comfy. I wore them for a while today. All right. White Noise says, I am keto over a year, but find myself craving vinegar. Oh, wow. I'm adding 4 ounces a day to my water, anything fermented pickles. As I read that first sentence, I was like, well, that's not a problem at all. But 4 ounces of vinegar is a lot of vinegar. So I also love the taste of anything fermented. Well, not anything, but I love fermented flavors. I love sauerkraut and pickles and all that. So I don't think there's a real big problem with that. But 4 ounces of vinegar is a lot of vinegar. So that's super interesting. Don't know of any harm you're doing. except you have to be careful with vinegar and your teeth enamel. So one of the things that it can do if you have it in too concentrated a form is it can start to wear away your tooth enamel. So make sure, but if you're saying like, oh, I put an ounce in a big glass of water and I have 4 of those through the day, that's different than if you were like downing shots of vinegar. But make sure you're being kind to your teeth, and that you're not doing anything to sort of degrade that enamel. So make sure your vinegar sources are diluted. And when you eat or drink things with vinegar, don't brush your teeth right after. And so that's one of the things that's really important with the enamel protection is if you do anything that's harsh on your teeth, don't brush it off, which sounds weird, right? But that brushing while that corrosive thing is on your teeth can actually amplify the process. Just rinse your mouth. So after you drink something with a lot of vinegar, you eat a lot of vinegar things, then just rinse your mouth out with just water. That will help a little bit with some of the tooth issues. But um, it's really weird, right? I've never enjoyed anything fermented before, and now it's an addiction. Yeah, I mean, tastes, they're funny. I have a weird one, which is my whole life I have adored broccoli. Big fan of broccoli, and in the past year, can't stand it. Don't know what happened. Just doesn't taste the same to me anymore. I blaming perimenopause, but it's funny because my boyfriend he's like, he likes broccoli, but he's like, it's got kind of this like sour, sulfuric, kind of taste. And I recognize that's there, but it never bothered me. And now that's like the primary thing I taste. So, taste will shift over time, I guess. It's super weird though. But yeah, I mean, eh, I do find though when I'm having a lot of like, I mean, there's like food, what do you call it? Like food theory around like where flavors are juxtaposed. So you've got sweet, salty, sour, bitter, sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami, right? And so if you're eating more sort of closer to the carnivore keto kind of world, you're going to have really upped that umami, that which is like that meaty flavor. And that vinegary fermented thing is a good, they go together very well. It breaks up the umami can be kind of heavy after a while. Like if you have a big steak, which is delicious and everybody, loves that, but there can be like a craving for something that's a little more bright, and that vinegary acidic flavor can kind of become something that we start craving. And so it could just be sort of the aligning of the sort of flavors that your diet is primarily based in really opened the door to want to taste a lot of the more vinegary flavors. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I can't think of, again, not a doctor. I don't know. Maybe there's something weird, but I can't think of something that it means it's a problem, but just protect your teeth. Certainly, well fermented foods are good for your gut bacteria for sure. So, yeah, bright, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, one of the things that does happen, this happens when we transition to a keto diet or after a while on a keto diet. If you think about like the full spectrum of foods that we're used to eating when we were eating more foods, like, think of all those different flavors that we get. And one of the things that people who've gone carnivore have said, right, is they're like, I crave things like pickles a lot. It comes up a lot because there's that kind of crunchy, because it's not just if you were said just vinegar would be one thing, but you said like you like pickles and things like that. There is this like sort of like crispy, crunchy bite that we start to want to contrast the sort of more chewy meatiness of meat. And so, it doesn't seem crazy to me that you'd want to add some of those things. I know Nisha is a big fan of fermented foods as well in her diet. So, yeah, I mean, fermented foods are great for your gut bacteria. I think if you could be addicted to something, that's probably not the worst thing to be addicted to. What else is going on here? Thinking. thinking. So yeah, so wore the overalls out today. Not sure how much I'll be wearing them because I felt a little awkward. I was like, do I look too old to be pregnant? So do I look do I look are people what are people think? Like I had this like chatter in my head as I was shopping thinking, what are people thinking about this outfit? And I usually am not thinking that when I'm shopping, right? I'm like I'm wearing like yoga clothes. But it was one of those things. I think I have trauma. I just uncovered it in my I was like, "Oh." So I've always been kind of a belly person, right? Even when I was a little kid. When I was a strange pre-adolescent in that I grew really fast. So I was the size of a teenager by the time I was like 9. And but I had that little kid belly and I was also metabolically unhealthy. So I had a belly. I had a sort of protruding belly as a kid. And when you look like a 6-year-old, that belly looks like a 6-year-old belly. But when you look like a teenager, that protruding little kid belly looks like you're pregnant. And so when I was like 10 to 12, when I kind of got a little more in alignment with my body frame, I looked like a very underage pregnant person. And so I got asked many times if I was pregnant when I was a kid. I think it left some mental scars for sure. And so I think that might be why I was like, it just occurred to me as I was talking about it. Well, that might be why I'm a little bit like, I don't want to look pregnant. So we'll see. Oh, thanks, Debbie Sue. She said, I do not look too old to be pregnant. I appreciate that. I am in fact 47. And while technically, biologically, there's no sign I couldn't get pregnant. I'll put it that way. I did have a talk with my OBGYN about it the other day. And she was like, yeah, you're at the age where if you did become pregnant, it probably would not last. Was the way she put it. Anyway, we're having a talk about fertility in general and what happens at different ages of fertility. Not to say that a 47-year-old woman can't carry a pregnancy. It's just much less likely to happen. I was doing a little, I'm doing some research for some writing in a book, and I had just been doing some research about egg quality when I had my annual. So I was having a chat with her about different ages and egg quality and that sort of thing. It's all a little crazy the way uh, reproduction works in the body, and how we have more eggs as an embryo than we do as a teenager. You don't really know what you need those for, but that's how they're there when you start. Thanks, Debbie Sue. I appreciate that. I appreciate that I might look younger than I am. I want to do that. Let's do that. I'll pick that. Hey, Cindy, thank you for reminding me. Please don't forget to send me. I think you already sent me the link, but if you wouldn't mind resending me the info as a reminder before our talk, because I can be a little bit scatterbrained. I think I warned you. Anyway, thanks, White Noise. I appreciate you guys. I don't do enough to try and keep everything working, but I will try to fight the gravity as much as I can. I have decided though to go gray, so that you can see the little sparkles in my hair. So we'll see where that goes. My mom is one of those people that like didn't go gray until her like 60s, but her her older sister and her younger sister both had salt and pepper by their 50s. So I certainly think I'll probably follow suit in that way. But yeah. So what are people feeling about where they're at with their own health journey? Who feels like they have hit a wall? Maybe are you happy where you are? What's going on? Discuss. Tell me what's going on there and what you might need to move in the positive direction. I can tell you on my journey, right? I got to a pretty happy place where I was like, okay, I'm good here. Then I started wanting to see the last, 10, 15 pounds of weight loss, but I just wasn't in alignment with the actions it was going to take to make that happen for a while. So there was a lot of dithering and back and forth and doubting myself and all that. And then finally I kind of kicked it into gear. And so now I'm happy to say that I feel like this is the year that is all happening. It's doing well. David says, I'm doing well, losing weight based on keto unstuck lessons. Well, great. I'm happy to hear it. You were an easy client, David. You certainly just took to it and kept going, and you're doing it all on your own. Cindy says, I am 65, have a little gray, as my mom, who passed at 74. One of my sisters has been gray for years. Yeah, it's a little random about the gray. It's supposed to be hereditary. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's happening there. But yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I got some bad news today on a live on a TikTok I was watching. No, it's not a TikTok. It was an Instagram. So I have from all my weight loss, a little bit of the turkey. You guys have the turkey neck, the turkey neck. And I've always heard about, people getting a little bit of a neck lift to get rid of the turkey neck. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll do that. It seems like a minor thing to just get rid of the turkey neck. I saw today somebody, a plastic surgeon online, was saying, nah, you can't really just do a neck lift. You got to do the face lift. You got to lift the whole face because your neck skin is really your face skin, right? And I'm like, oh, that looks nice. That's much better. Anyway, I'm a open book talking to you about my loose skin. All right. Debbie says, I just decided to give up dairy for a while. I had some inflammation over the last few months. Yeah. So giving up dairy is, it's a great way to do a 30-day or a 90-day trial of how it helps, what it does for you, for sure. Nancy says, my taste buds since chemo have changed a lot, having a hard time eating enough protein, which is even more important now. Totally. So protein aversion is real, especially with things like chemotherapy and stuff like that. So, for people in that boat, I would say, maybe not this brand, but things like protein powder can be really helpful when you have that sort of protein aversion, but you definitely need to get it in. Also, varying up the types of sources of protein, like, maybe this meat in this form, maybe you don't love steak anymore, but you could do, maybe how do you feel about burgers, right? Like change up the format, and maybe that might be something that your taste buds are more okay with. Sweet Tea says, I need to lose 50 more pounds, but I am stuck. I am so tired of measuring and counting macros. I tried intuitive eating, but I started gaining. Yeah. So intuitive eating is something that's kind of specifically interesting. So I've had, some experience with it. The idea behind intuitive eating, right, is just listen to your body and, do eat the way that your body tells you to eat. And the amounts of food that your body tells you to eat. And I think that for a lot of us, when we're trying to lose weight, your appetite is not always well aligned with your goals, right? And so we don't become overweight just because we like food. We become overweight because our appetite drives us to eat. It's a multifactorial issue, right? It's not just one thing, but it's not like we're having that experience that we're eating and we're like force feeding ourselves because our body's like, I am full, please stop. Sometimes it was like that, but right, it's like, no, our body's like, yes, please eat more. And so when we start trying to lose weight and maybe we lost some weight, our kind of natural set points are trying to draw us back into being the weight we used to be. And so it can be really challenging to intuitively eat and lose weight. And in fact, most intuitive eating sort of coaches or leaders will say it's not a weight loss diet. Intuitive eating is meant to help you mentally, not to change your physical body. So, if you have a goal like weight loss, intuitive eating isn't always the best way. I would say for me, it certainly isn't, because if I just follow and listen to what I want to eat, how much I want to eat, and just eat in quantities that feel more mentally appropriate, like I'm like, that looks like a right amount of food, I gain weight. So absolutely. What for says, I'm doing reverse diet, hopefully right, because I'm pretty sure I was under eating. Do I go back to fasting to try to lose? I gained back 10 pounds on the reverse diet. So what I would say is, um, how you're doing your reverse diet is going to depend, right? So you do the reverse diet, a reverse diet is just very gradually eating a little bit more food, a little more at a time, and a little more, then a little more, trying to get your body to uh increase its metabolic rate a bit. Simultaneously with a reverse diet is very beneficial as well, to do things like adding in resistance training. That is a great time to start to add in more activity. And then keep that activity level in your life as you go on your next cut, which is where you go back to ways of eating that cause more weight loss. So that would be doing things like reducing the quantity of food you eat, or adding in a little bit of fasting to your life, but doing so in a way that's appropriate for your body and maintenance of muscle mass. White Noise says, I've recently started taking collagen peptides once a day. Not sure how I feel about it. So collagen peptides, some people find it's very helpful for the health of their hair, their nails, for their skin. So, um, I'm not at all opposed to adding collagen peptides. I don't bother doing it because mostly, there's a lot of things I don't bother doing. But it's certainly not, I don't consider collagen peptides they're not a primary protein source. So they're sort of a supplemental protein because it's not a complete protein. So I think of it as more medicinal rather than dietary, if that makes sense, or nutritional. Although it is nutritional in nature. And so, take it on as an experiment. Use it for a month or when your supply runs out, and say, like, did anything change for me? Does my skin look different? Does my hair look different? Do my nails feel different? And if the answer is no, then you probably have the answer of whether you want to continue to use them or not. But it's an experiment with very low risk, right? I've not heard of anybody having horrible issues from collagen. Certainly, if they had a bad reaction to it, they just stopped taking it. So, Suzanne, sorry. I've been working on gaining muscle by lifting weights 4 times a week. Tired of living on a diet. Yes, Suzanne, agree. Understand the perspective. And I think for a lot of people, that is a great way to do it. When you get into that place where you're like, I've lost a lot of weight, maybe I still have some weight that I want to lose. But I want to be a healthy human and do healthy human things, and you've got serious diet fatigue. Moving your attention away from dieting and towards maybe just being a stronger, healthier, better body compositioned human, I think is a great approach. So totally support that. Strong women are healthier in their later years than skinny women. So I'm not saying we can't have weight loss as a desire, but if we look at sort of long-term health and how we survive into our later years, which we're all headed in that direction, hopefully, right? That if you do a cross analysis between like lean and like less fat, which is what kind of lean means, right? And more muscular, because you can think there's like 4 boxes. You could be high body fat, low muscle, high body fat, high muscle, low body fat, low muscle, low body fat, high muscle, right? And the group that is the worst off of all those groups is the low body fat, low muscle group, which is a synonym for frail. The frail people don't do as well in their later years. You're actually better off being slightly fluffy, not majorly obese, but slightly fluffy and muscular at the same time, than you are being skinny and weak. So, for sure, at a certain point as humans, I think it's important to say, I want to be sane. I want to be food sane. I want to be happy. I can't put my attention on losing weight anymore. Let's just maintain the amount, maintain my weight ish, not gain any body fat. And let's focus on adding some muscle to my body. And that's going to improve your body composition because it's the ratio of fat to muscle that you've got. And we've got to do things that make us feel good mentally, not just, like, what are we driving towards, right? Let's just be honest. Most of us, myself included, I am not going to end up a supermodel or a swimsuit model. I can put on a swimsuit and take pictures and then I'm a swimsuit model for sure. But you know what I mean, right? It's not happening. It's just not a thing. It's not something that drives me. What drives me more is like liking the, can't use a word, liking the way that I look in clothes, liking the way my body feels, liking the way it moves in the world, being able to lift things over my head and not needing help, all these things. Like, what are we actually training for? We're training to be a good human. So we got to do that. What for? I'm questioning whether I'm getting well-rounded nutrition with enough omega-3s. I don't like fish or seafood. I'm eating mostly meat and eggs. Okay, right up my alley. What for? I also don't really like fish or seafood. And so I take an omega-3 supplement because I think for our cardiovascular health and our inflammation levels, getting omega-3s is very important. There's actually good data that having a high omega-3 ratio is very helpful to have lower inflammation levels and to have better cardiovascular outcomes. So I supplement. There's two brands, Carlson's and Nordic Naturals, that make really good quality omega-3 supplements. And you keep them in the fridge and you take a couple a day and they're very beneficial. So for me, my answer has been, I'm just not, even if we bought fish on a regular basis, I wouldn't eat it. I don't like it. I have that thing where, when fish is like a little bit past its prime, it has a certain taste and smell to it. That's how it tastes initially for me. So that's not good. It makes me feel like a little bit nauseous. So I'm not going to push it. I know myself well enough to know that I am a picky eater in certain ways and I'm just a no. So I supplement. So I take omega-3s. And so if any of you out there are like me, I would say get a supplement. There's good data that a good quality omega-3 supplement is beneficial. It's not only coming from from fish. And yes, meat and eggs do have a little bit, especially if they're like the free range and they feed them in a special diet and all that kind of stuff, but it's not enough. It's not going to be enough. So that's the way I feel in the world. For me, things like omega-3s, vitamin D3, K2, and magnesium are my go-tos for sure in terms of the things that I add supplementally to my diet. And after, many, many years of research and experience are the things that I consider must-haves in my diet. I don't, if you're somebody that eats a good amount of fish, you don't need to do the omega-3s. I just don't. So yeah, so I'm not giving you advice directly, but in that boat, which I am in that boat, and my choice was to supplement with omega-3s for sure. If you're using a good brand, it's, I wouldn't get them at the drugstore, right? I would order them from either Carlson or Nordic Naturals. I think right now I'm using, hold on, I'll look at my Amazon list and see what I ordered last. I've ordered them both and I liked them both. The one I ordered last, I liked better because I had to take less pills. They were like more concentrated. So let me see. Okay. Yeah. Carlson. Carlson. I got the maximum omegas. That's what I got last, and that one is the Carlson. I liked because the Nordic Naturals I had to take 3 pills, and the Carlson I only had to take 2 pills. I like that better. And these they didn't give me any burps. And like if I don't like the taste of fish, I certainly don't like the taste of fish burps. And so I did not get a burpee thing with either one of those brands. What's a good vitamin DK2? Thorn is usually my go-to brand for most things. And then this is the magnesium I take. I just happen to have it out. This is magnesium citramate. So if you're somebody that not to be a little TMI, if you tend to have a little slower digestion, if you know what I mean, this one's great because it's a mix of magnesium. Wow, I'm going blind as I get older. It's a mix of citrate and malate. And those are both good forms, but the citrate can kind of move things through your digestive tract a little bit better. So if you're somebody that needs a little help in that department, I like this product a lot. I was recently doing some research on magnesium, and I was interested to find out that threonate, which is very good apparently for your brain, or it's suspected it's helpful for your brain and for relaxation and sleep, actually is not found to be as well absorbed and is not as good for getting your body stores of magnesium up. So I would say for most people, they're going to want like a citrate or a malate or a glycinate. And if you want to do some threonate too, that's fine. But it doesn't stick as well. I'll put it that way. And the amount of magnesium that we need might be more than our gut likes. And so because it can cause loose stools, right, in the opposite direction. So you can spread it out through your day. Have some in the morning, some in the evening. The RDA on it is around 400 milligrams. And I've heard as much as 600 for some people being beneficial. Obviously, talk to your doctor. But generally speaking, the thing about magnesium that's nice versus potassium is magnesium, if you take too much of it, you poop it out. So it's not as dangerous as ODing on potassium, in which case, if you OD on potassium, it affects your heart rhythm. Don't want to do that. That's why they don't sell potassium in a supplement as easily. But yeah, magnesium, you'll just be more like, well, that was a mistake. And, spend a little more time in the bathroom than you want if you start using more than you should, which is recoverable from, depending, as long as it's not like your wedding day, something like that. All right. Yeah, so I just mentally also find that they found in some studies that a high dose of omega-3s does have an effect on your brain. Some people find depression symptoms have been lessened from supplementing with omega-3s. But if you follow the work of Rhonda Patrick et al., she has a lot of good information on the omega-3 supplementation. So you can look her up if you want more info about, the benefits. But there's been some interventional trials with those omega-3s, and they seem really beneficial for a lot of people if they're not getting them naturally in their diet otherwise. So, all right, guys, what else we got? So a little bit of I got, this is just, I happen to have it next to me, but it's a little, speaking of supplements, it's a little travel pill kit that doesn't leak and everything stays in its own place. So that's kind of nice. I like this. What brand is it? I don't know. They sell these things on Amazon all the time. I was getting a bunch of these little pill cases that like they didn't have these enclosures, right? So these close completely, which is nice. And I had somewhere that was like a slider and the pills would all come flying out. Anyway, so this locks nicely for travel. I have this little pill box for at home use. which I have my little daily. I just preload these every week with my little kits. So what's in here right now? There's the omegas are the yellows, the whites are the magnesium, the little white one, that's a D3. And then I think I've got a pendulum probiotic in there I'm trying out. So that's what's in there. And then I put iodine in my coffee. So that's a dropper in the kitchen. So White Noise says, I started taking the omega-3 because of those depressed anxiety studies, and they were hugely beneficial. Yeah, I think they may be helping me. I'm a sort of depressed, anxious human. It's just the way I'm built. And so I feel like they've been beneficial for me as well. So I like that. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up for the day. And I hope everyone has a great week. And I will be back on next Tuesday with another live and Q&A. So I hope to see all of you there with me next week as well. Please bring your questions and whatever else you'd like me to discuss. I'm always happy. How's the boyfriend? He's good. He is out on Tuesdays. So I do my lives then because I find it easier without somebody else in the room looking at me from the side to talk. But he's good. He's good. We're getting along well these days, which is nice. It's a very long-term thing. So, goes up, goes down. And tonight for dinner, he has requested that I make him, as we say, the cheesy noodles, which is sort of a fancied up version of macaroni and cheese. So it's not something that I eat. It's something that he will eat. But I'll use the cheese and the sausage and the broccoli. Well, I don't really like broccoli now. I'll probably use the cheese and the sausage that I add into his little cheesy noodles. And I'll put it on some cauliflower rice. And so that'll be my dinner while he has his little noodles. He's not a high carber. He's a carb includer. So we go through different phases. So we are a mixed diet family. What for says, you've been so helpful to me as I've only listened to the YouTube videos for a while. You've been helpful and encouraging. I appreciate that. Thank you for listening. What for? Take care, everybody. I will see you next week.